Hi, I'm Stacey and welcome to my Book Nook, and today we're going to be doing my July wrap-up. So, we're going to be doing this a little bit differently because I realised that I haven't really been explaining which books I've picked from my TBR to go in my wrap-up. So I'll start doing that. But first things first, we're going to be doing the stats. So, for July, I read 6 books, which came to a total of 2,030 pages. So I'm pretty pleased with that one. One of them was digital and 5 of them were physical. And my average rating was 3.41. And 2 of these authors I've read from before, and 4 of them I haven't. So they're new authors to me. So the first role from my TBR was priority TBR, and for this I was going to be doing things from authors who were going to Yelk. And so the first one that I read for this was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mandanna. And this is a nice cute little story. And it follows Mika, and she is a witch, and she gets invited to go to a place where there are 3 orphaned witches. And she gets invited to go and teach them. And this is really cute. It's like a found family type thing. It involves witches. It is evocative of House in the Cerulean Sea, but it does have its own twist. It's got its own thing about it with the witchiness, which I really liked. I did only give this one 3.5 stars, I believe. It was either a 3 or 3.5. So I liked it. I thought it was a nice story. It was a good story, but I didn't love it, but I did like it. Like average. But it was cute. I would probably read it again for like a comfort read kind of thing. Right, so the second role I had was for a TBR veteran. Now, I didn't read any of the ones that I picked from there. I went a bit wild with this. I was a bit like, I'm just gonna go rogue. So what I did read for it instead was Crazy Rich Asians by Kwan. I gave this one 3 stars. I'm just going to start off with that. This follows Rachel Chu as she meets her boyfriend's family, only he hasn't told her that they are crazy rich. And he has a huge family. So she's kind of thrown right in at the deep end. And there's a lot of characters in this. A lot of just, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of rich people stuff. And I didn't love it. I didn't love hearing about all the expensive stuff that was going on. It just kind of, it almost leaves a bad taste in your mouth when you realise that people, this isn't, I mean, it is satire, but it isn't completely far off what real crazy rich people do. Like, they don't bat an eyelid about spending $500,000 on something. So, that, I didn't love the experience of that. But it was a fun book. It was a fun ride. If you enjoy reading about rich people and how ridiculous they can be, this is probably for you. What I really did enjoy about this though was the setting. So it's set in Singapore, but it goes off to lots of different places. But the main crux of it is in Singapore. And it said a lot about the culture, a lot about the food, and I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So yeah, that was really interesting. Yes, I've already said I gave it 3 stars. So good, not quite my cup of tea, but I would think it would be someone else. Someone else's. There's a lot of family drama in this, by the way. Like a lot. So the next one I read was, the role was for thriller or horror, and I read my book club read, which was The Last House on Needless Street by Catriona Ward, and I gave it 4 stars. So The Last House on Needless Street. The synopsis gave you pretty much nothing. It says, like, it's about a missing girl, there's things buried in the forest at the end of Needless Street, but it's not what you think. And it's about a man and his daughter and his cat. And that's all I'm going to say, because it gets mental. Okay, you need to. I would recommend it because it is so not what you think. I could not have predicted that ending if I wanted to. It's just so different, and we had a hell of a discussion at book club about it. So it was really interesting. Like, really, really interesting. And some people gave it 5 stars and others gave it 3 stars. So it's kind of in that kind of mix. So I was kind of average with it. Okay, so the next role was role number 4. It was sci-fi. And I didn't read a sci-fi. In July, I didn't read it. So we'll skip past that one. And the next one was a thriller / horror again. And for this one, I read Yellowface. Yellowface by Rebecca F. Kuang. And I gave this 3.5 stars. And yes, it is a thriller, but it's also kind of like a literary fiction. Like, it really is. It really is literary fiction. Because that's bang on the nose about what it's about. It's about publishing. It's about a woman who steals her friend's manuscript that when they die unexpectedly in a freak accident. And her friend is Asian and she is white. So it's about the consequences of that. It's about kind of race and the publishing industry. And it's also about social networks and loneliness. It's about a lot of things and it's really, really interesting, but it just wasn't quite for me. But I did find it absolutely fascinating. I read this so fast because it was so fascinating. Yeah, so Yellowface. I love this cover. I love it. Okay, and the next role was a colour pick, and the colour was pink. And again, I didn't read any of the books that I said I was going to read for this. Because instead I read The Ballad of Never After by Stephanie Garber. This is the second in the series, and the first one is called Once Upon a Broken Heart, and the third one will be out at the end of this year. So I really wanted to read this, and it is pink. I think the main vibe is pink on the cover. I was going to say if that isn't enough, it's pink underneath, but it's actually red. So we'll ignore that. But that's very much pink. So I don't really want to say too much about this. Apart from that, I gave it 3 stars because I seem to give all of Stephanie Garber books 3 stars, but I keep reading them. So it's like, I like them enough. They're just kind of moreish. Like, they're not great, but you still want to read them. And I could say the same of the Selection series. We won't talk about the Selection series, but I'm pretty sure I gave all of those 3 stars as well. Like, it's the same kind of, you'd want to read them even though you know they're not amazing. Although it was quite interesting. I just don't think her writing's for me. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. And then the last roll was a TBR jar pick for weapon on cover, and I did not read Silver in the Bone. I didn't do it. Instead, I didn't. Oh, actually, do you know what? Maybe it does have a weapon on the cover. I'll insert it because I'm not entirely sure, but I did read Monstress Volume 1. I gave that a 3 star. There was a lot of 3 stars this month. If that has a weapon, great, it fits the prompt, but if not, I just read it as a random extra because I was intrigued. And Monstress is set in a very fantasy world, like, there's a lot to get your head round. And it's following this girl who's from a different race. There's like 2 different kind of, well, there's several different races, but hers are prosecuted. And she has this kind of monstrous being inside her. And that's all I'm going to say. Yeah, so I read that. So I feel like I did pretty well during this month. I did read 6 books, even if they weren't all the things I was supposed to read. But I think that's pretty good. I'm not going to kick myself for reading 6 books. So, yes, that's everything. Tell me if you've read any of those and what you thought of them. If you differ from me, I'd love to hear it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.